My research is about hidden things. It's about the secrets we carry with us into the workplace, the beliefs we hold dear that lay behind our values, our relationships with divinity that feed our passions to do good in the world, to work in the nonprofit sector. My research is about what it's like to be a nun who works in the nonprofit sector. The decision to pass or to disclose a stigmatized religious identity, whether at work or in public life, is complex and carries both an emotional burden and professional risk. Additionally, cultural prejudice in the workplace can take a toll on our mental health and well-being. Nuns are a bucket category made up of non-denominational religious affiliations. There are a lot of statistical problems with the category, the most prominent being that nuns are categorized differently based on the type of study being done and the aims of the researcher. Regardless of how nuns are defined, studies consistently show that they are the most rapidly growing cohort in the American religious landscape. This segment of the population makes up roughly 33% of adults in the US. For a bit of scale, that's roughly 75 million of the 228 million adults counted in the 2010 census, or 1 in 3 of your colleagues. In my research, I distributed a survey to folks who handle HR in the sector, and I interviewed nuns of various religious affiliations who currently work in nonprofits. My two-part hypothesis was that 1, nonprofit HR doesn't know about nuns, and that 2, nuns have religious and cultural needs that are not being met. My survey was pretty basic. 5 minutes, 18 questions. I just wanted to get a sense of how well the sector knew about nuns and how HR folks were approaching them as a whole. My interviews were a lot more in-depth. I built an interview protocol around themes that I was interested in. Each interview averaged 60 minutes, after which I gleefully coded and organized data. The first part of my hypothesis was not supported by my findings. 70% of HR folks who responded to my survey indicated that they were in fact aware of nuns as a religious demographic before participating in my survey. Further, half of the respondents who took the survey chose to share their religious affiliation with me, and, surprise, 80% of them were nuns themselves. The second part of my hypothesis, that nuns have religious and cultural needs that are not being met, was supported. Only one of the 7 people I interviewed was out at their current job. In fact, that individual was the only person I interviewed that had ever been out at work, and they have worked in the sector the fewest number of years, just 2. Every other person I interviewed has worked in the sector between 5 and 15 years, and none of them are entry level. I spoke with specialists and directors, all leaders in their organizations, and all of them described working in environments where they felt unwelcome or unsafe to express their religious affiliation, despite coworkers of mainline faiths being open, and in some cases proselytizing, about theirs. This didn't surprise me. For more than a decade, both HR management and religious peacemaking activists have been recommending tactics to establish religious accommodation in the workplace. These tactics have still not been adopted by the nonprofit sector. As of 2008, only 50% of employers were training managers and supervisors in religious diversity issues. A mere 37% offered any training on religion and spirituality to other employees. While any training is better than no training at all, only 22% of HR professionals who responded to my survey said their organizations had any type of diversity training. Similarly, only 28% of my interviewees said they worked in organizations that provided diversity training, including religion. In 2012, the Society for Human Resource Management found that 72% of employers did not offer paid leave for holidays that fell outside of the organization's holiday schedule. In 2020, only 22% of respondents to my survey said that they had a flexible leave policy. In my interviews, I found that, unlike their Christian counterparts, nuns must use vacation, personal, or unpaid days to observe their key holidays. I take this to mean that employers just aren't listening to outside experts about how to make their workplaces inclusive of religion. So how do regular employees start to shift the culture in the sector? Just like much of our equity work in the sector, it starts with self-reflection, self-education, and individual action. To build religious equity, we must treat our workplaces as religiously inclusive spaces, not as religiously neutral spaces, because neutrality carries the values of mainstream religion. So I have 3 things that you, regardless of your position in your organization, can do to make your workplace more inclusive. First, think about how you might be complicit in perpetuating religious exclusion in the workplace. Second, learn about religious diversity, especially in the city you live in. Third, move beyond the Christianized holiday calendar in your personal lives. How do we do more? Further research should ask, what % of nuns make up the whole of the American workforce? How many nuns work in the nonprofit sector specifically? And what are the experiences of nuns who do HR in the sector? Not only can answering these questions provide data for improving our organizations, it can help nuns recognize that we are not alone in the sector. that we do belong here, not in spite of our beliefs, but because of them. Thank you.